So this is the global forecast for 2022. I have no idea how this video is going to come out. I've done the 12 sun signs and I've just got, look, I mean, look at this. I've got just pages and pages of data, raw data in front of me. But I've managed to distill from about 6 pages down into that. Here goes. We start the year at the most difficult time. We've had two and a half years of lockdown, virus, frustration. As we get into the early new year, we start the year from the start of December 2021 to the beginning of March 2022. Venus in the sky is retrograde, or is in Capricorn, retrograde, conjuncting Pluto. This is important, the conjunction to Pluto. Mercury starts the year at the end of Capricorn, conjunct Pluto, moves into Aquarius in January, goes retrograde, comes back into Capricorn, conjunct Pluto at the end of January, stands still, moves forward, conjuncts Pluto again around the middle of February. Mars moves into Capricorn in January, and then at the end of February and the start of March, it's at the end of Capricorn, conjuncting Pluto. The Sun will conjunct Pluto around about the 17th of January, and the full moon in Cancer on the 17th of January will be opposite Pluto. What this tells me is that from December warming up, from the start of January through to early March, Pluto is being hit by the Sun, the full moon, Mercury 3 times, Venus 3 times, Mars. What this tells me is that over the period of January, February, early March, there's a lot of stuff coming up from the underworld. A lot of stuff that's been suppressed, repressed, hidden, concealed is going to be brought to the surface. There's a great deal of secrecy going to be exposed. There's a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of poison is going to be released. There's going to be a lot of purging and detoxing and cleansing and purifying and eliminating. In addition, there's something rather nice happening in the early part of the year. Starting around the second week of March, running through to starting around the second week of February, running through to almost the end of March, we've got Venus in Capricorn standing still, and then beginning to move forward again, picking up speed as Mars is in Capricorn. And there's going to be something really unusual. There's going to be a 6 to 7 week long conjunction of Venus and Mars. And from, say, let's just pick a date at random, say from the 12th of February, right the way through to, say, the 17th, 18th of March, Venus and Mars are never more than 1 or 1.5 degrees away from each other. And the actual conjunction will be on the 1st of March, and they're going to be ahead of the sun. So for those of us with clear skies, early in the morning, we're going to see the Venus and Mars together in the sky, or at least in the same degree of longitude. And there will be a time when they come together. And this will happen between early February and late March, and it will happen about an hour to 2 hours before sunrise, and it should be one hell of a light show. Then we get to the big event of the year. Jupiter in Pisces. Now Jupiter's going to be in Pisces most of the year. It's going to whiz through Pisces from the start of January through to the 10th of May, move into Aries, go retrograde, move back into Pisces in September, October time, stand still, move forward and move into Aries again in December. But in the first 19 weeks of the year through to the 10th of May, Jupiter's going to go right the way through Pisces. And during that time, it's going to conjunct Neptune. Now, as far as the big planet relationships go, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto aren't touching each other over the coming year. Saturn isn't going to be touching Neptune or Pluto over the coming year. The Saturn-Uranus square which has been signifying COVID along with the big conjunction of 2020, it's nowhere near as exact in 2022 as it has been in the last year and a half. It will still be around, but fading as the year goes on. The big one is the period around the first 2 weeks of April, when Jupiter in the sky will conjunct Neptune at around about 23, very nearly 24 degrees of Pisces. Now this is going to affect everybody born around the 14th, 15th, 16th of their respective month. You have to look at the sun sign forecast to find out exactly how. But in the world, Jupiter conjunct Neptune. Now, a lot of astrologers are already out there going, oh, this is going to be a wonderful time. It's going to be full of growth and expansion at a spiritual level, because Neptune in Pisces is a lovely energy, and it's about enhancing and growing the intuition and the imagination and the artistry, the esoteric, the subtle and refined, the spiritual. Yeah, it's all of that. It's also going to amplify the capacity of the negative side of Neptune, that of escapism, avoidance, gullibility, deception, neuroses, having the wool pulled over your eyes, seeing the world as being the way you want it to be rather than dealing with it the way it is. Now, I, for one, come the first 2 weeks of April, I'm not going to be taking anything for granted. I'm not going to be believing anything I'm being told. I suspect that there's going to be quite a degree of hype and spin in the first couple of weeks of April. There's going to be things over-exaggerated, over-amplified, made to be much bigger than they really are. And I'm going to suspend judgment in the first 2 weeks of April, and I suggest you do too. Don't believe everything you're being told. Let's see where we stand by the time we're into the second half of April and the balloon will have burst. This could actually have an impact on a number of in a positive way, on environmental circumstances, because after all, Neptune deals with the deep sea. Jupiter used to rule Pisces before Neptune was discovered, so it's quite a friendly conjunction. But I'm very cautious around Jupiter's capacity for over-exaggerating, over-amplifying, and for letting things be bigger than they really are. There's a few moons that need attention. The full moon on the 17th of January, that's opposite Pluto, 1 degree. That's strong. The new moon on the 1st of February is conjunct Saturn and square Uranus. That's difficult. That's really difficult. The new moon on the 2nd of March is conjunct Jupiter, and this to me is the first signs of hope. The full moon on the 18th of March is trine Pluto, 0 degrees. The total eclipse of the full moon on the 16th of May is square Saturn, less than half a degree, and trine Neptune, less than half a degree. But Neptune in Pisces is stronger than Saturn in Aquarius, methinks. And the full moon will be in Scorpio. So I'm coming down on the side of Neptune on this one. I think it's a good full moon, but it's going to be an interesting one. It represents to me the end of something. The full moon in Aquarius on the 12th of August is exactly square Uranus, but that's a standalone. That's not connected with any larger pattern. That's just going to be some type of big shock or surprise in the world at that time. The one I've really got my eyes on is the total eclipse of the full moon in Taurus on the 8th of November. This is taking place weekly square Saturn. It's taking place conjunct Uranus, 1 degree, opposite Mercury, 1 degree, opposite Venus, 3 degrees. That 8th of November full moon, the total eclipse of the full moon, is a stinker. And I suspect that that's also a bit of a standalone job. But there's going to be big changes around that time. And that's followed by the full moon in Gemini on the 8th of December, which is exactly opposite Mars, exactly opposite retrograde Mars in Gemini. The Mars retrograde, Mars is going to spend from sort of mid-August through to January 2023 in Gemini. 5 months in one sign, that's unusual. So if I were to summarise all this, the lack of big outer planet influences compared to the last few years anyway. The Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in April. What I see as some difficult moons at the start of the year, followed by a lot of really nice ones over the middle part of the year. And then that stinker on the 8th of November. I suggest we're seeing the end of a 2.5-year period of bluster, confusion, deception. Having had COVID myself and still in the stages of recovery, COVID is real. But having had it myself and knowing that it's different to anything else I've ever experienced, it does not feel natural to me. I think, looking at the astrology of 2022, that the more we get into mid-March onwards, we're going to start seeing the end of the pandemic. That COVID will remain, but it will gradually get weaker and weaker with odd moments of flare-up, and there will be still continued attempts to terrify us with Project Fear about how we've all got to get our 8th booster jab and all of that. And this will happen around the total eclipse of the full moon in Scorpio on the 16th of May and the total eclipse of the full moon in Taurus on the 8th of November. But I still reckon that over this coming year, COVID's going to get weaker and weaker until we're into this time next year, by which time it will be as strong as flu. Now, I think this is going to be a much more positive year than at any time in the last 2.5 years. I do warn against complacency. My fear is that by the time we're into March, April, we're going to see everyone thinking, oh, okay, it's over, great, we can go back on our bucket flights to Spain, to the Canary Islands, to Greece, to Brazil. We can carry on eating our burgers, we can carry on abusing our bodies and taking everything for granted and believing everything we're being told, and go back to where we were 3 years ago, in which case the lessons have not been learnt. The thing about being an astrologer is you don't look at patterns in the immediate future, you also look at patterns in the long-term future. And Saturn and Neptune will conjunct each other at 29 degrees of Pisces, the last degree of the zodiac, and then 0 degrees of Aries, the first degree of the zodiac, at the end of 2025 and early 2026. And I don't know what that's going to bring, but bearing in mind recent history, it wouldn't surprise me if something potentially as strong, if not stronger, than what we've experienced so far is coming up in about 3 years' time. So, without wishing to beat my own drum, to the intelligent amongst you, concentrate on your personal immune system over this year. Build your immunity. Eat well. Eat your fruit and veg. Get your minerals in you. Eat your salads. Exercise well. If you're living in a good body, you have a clean mind. You cannot be deceived. Trust yourselves. Last year, I put up a video at the end of the year. Thank you, it was called, and it was a lovely song. There's another song at the end of this. You'll find it underneath the donations bit. I've put up a donations thing because a lot of you have helped me out this year, especially when I had COVID. Thank you. You know who you are. It's those little donations that make the difference. So thank you. I'll keep pumping it out as long as I'm able. And check out the video link at the end of the donations thing. And I dare you not to laugh. It's my favourite video of the year. It's an old one, but a good one. Catch you in 2022, folks. Bye.